My name's Kimberly Darlington, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the importance of getting the word out about mining. And this is every time I go to any one of these conferences or any of these events and I meet with people, it just further reinforces my sense that this is what is really crucial to the industry at this point in time. Next slide, please, Sandra. So what is so great about mining? And again, I may be preaching to the choir here, but as we all know, the industry is very global in scope, but it's very specific when it comes to the knowledge, the terminology, the details, the technical terms that we use that are a daily part of all aspects of mining, whether it's for everything from prospecting and exploration through to project development, through production, construction, and then operations, and all the way through to reclamation and mine closure. It really is an industry unlike any other. I'm in love with it. I'm sure most people on this call probably are as well. But it does sort of put up this wall between people who get mining and people who don't. So it can be very, very hard for outsiders to break that wall. Next slide, please. We're making leaps and bounds when it comes to innovation and the use of new technologies, cool stuff like AI and, autonomous trucks and things like that. But those advancements, how they're translating into better mining practices, how it makes everything safer, how it makes everything better for the environment is not very well understood. It's poorly understood, and we need to get those stories out a little bit more. Next slide. At the same time, we're on the cusp of this great energy revolution. Everyone's talking about getting rid of fossil fuels and being renewable, using electric energy, finding green sources. But all those technologies are never going to happen without mining, because without those critical minerals that we need to make it happen, we're never going to get there. Next slide. So in order to get there and change the perceptions that are out there, I believe the most important thing is to be better at explaining what we do, why we do it, and what great strides we're making in terms of how mining is improving almost on a daily basis, and communicating that, whether it's to the investment community, the media, the labor market, potential future labor market, and the younger generations, and the public at large. Next slide. So a little bit about my company, Refined Substance, which I founded in 2012. We're a team of, we just added our 7th team member. So we're 7 people that specialize in professional marketing, communications, investor relations, public relations, and we do everything in both English and French. And we're specifically, we have a little niche. We only work in the mining industry, mining and exploration, and anything connected to the mining industry, but specifically mining. We take the key messages that our clients seek to communicate, and we want to get them across in the most effective way to whoever their key audiences are, whether it's the investors, the public, media as a conduit to reach some of those people, senior executives. Sometimes we're dealing with board members who don't really understand mining, and of course, employees and potential employees. And most of us are based in Montreal, but we also have team members in Toronto, in Collingwood, Ontario, and somebody in Morocco as well. Next slide. Our focus, why we do what we do, is that we believe that today, with social media, with the internet, we're bombarded with communications all the time, and it is more important than ever to be clear, consistent, and effective when communicating our messages. Next slide. So what's the big deal? Why is mining so poorly understood? And again, probably some of you already know this, but most mines are far from people. They're in remote locations. They're not near big cities. People don't know. They don't have a dad who worked in mining as much as they did maybe 20 or 30 years ago. They don't know somebody who works in the industry, so they don't see it firsthand or even secondhand. They don't see what's going on. The other thing, of course, is in the past, mining has not necessarily treated the environment as responsibly as it certainly does now, and as it could have in the past. So there's a bit of a negative reputation that we have to combat when we're talking about mining. And younger generations just don't seem to be listening. They're all on TikTok. They're not paying attention to what's going on in terms of what's in those phones that they're on all the time. And from an investment perspective, there's so many other messages out there, whether it's crypto, whether it's cannabis, who knows, but mining tends to be pushed to the wayside, and they just tune right out. Next slide. So whether it's young people, even general public, there's a profound disconnect right now between where those minerals and metals that we need for computers, phones, EVs, batteries for EVs, renewable energy technologies like wind farms, all those critical minerals, where do they come from? They come from mines, as we all know. Next slide. But everyone's very happy to use all these great products, you know, happy to have solar panels, happy to have nice computers, electric vehicles, even if something as simple as a stainless steel bowl. I mean, when was the last time you were baking cupcakes and you didn't think, oh, this came from the ground, this was mined? These are all needed to do what we do every day in our lives. And there's particularly a need for those minerals that are considered critical minerals that are going to help us be renewable, be more environmentally responsible, and help to preserve the planet. Next slide. So our goal is to change that. Our goal is to make it very clear where these things come from, how it's done in a very responsible way, and all the cool stuff that's being applied to do it in an effective and responsible way as possible. Next slide. And if we don't succeed, the stakes are high. We're not going to meet our targets for 2050 when it comes to carbon reduction because we won't have enough critical minerals. We're not taking enough out of the ground right now, even as it is, and 2050 ain't that far away. Mining companies struggle with depressed and undervalued share prices, which lead to further underinvestment and difficulty attracting significant institutional investors. Current shareholders become disgruntled or even hostile. You're having a hard time attracting new employees and top talent to your projects. The industry in general is really suffering right now, filling jobs. I was just at the conference in Quebec, and Rob McEwen did a presentation showing how many students are going into mining in 1970 versus 2000 and today, and it's just going down, down, down. So I don't know where this larger labor pool is going to be coming from, but it's desperately needed. And the importance now, of course, of social acceptability wherever these projects are being developed. Companies have to achieve that in order to proceed with mining projects and secure investment. Next slide. So how are we going to do this? I believe the way we have to do it is by telling stories. And I love this quote by Richard Powers. The best arguments in the world won't change a single person's mind. The only thing that can do that is a good story. Next slide. So we do that. That's what we do. We tell stories, whether it's through creating great websites for mining companies, creating great posts and a consistent presence on social media. We try to use images and video in the proper context as much as possible as we get more and more into this 90-second video attention span generation. We still believe in the power of media and cultivate relationships with mining media journalists and analysts who are professional storytellers. We believe in sharing stories among employees, whether it's sharing personal wins, wins at work, or even just community good news stories. When it comes to presenting for these companies, we believe that it's important to have clear and easy to understand presentations. We also think you have to be very strategic and specific about which events you want to be at, which conferences, if you're going to conferences, and be as prepared as possible with all the marketing materials, staffing, whatever you need for those events. So we help with all of that stuff. Next slide. Telling stories is not enough. It's great to be out there with your bullhorn and telling everyone what you think, but next slide. We also have to be ready to listen. And if you can go to the next slide, please, Sandra. I think you probably already heard that communication is a two-way street. And so that's part of what we do as well. So yes, we help companies talk, but we also make sure that they're listening. Next slide. Thank you, Erica. We have to be open to feedback. We know that people can reach out more than ever before. They can reach out through your contact page on your website, social media comments, email inquiries, phone calls, text messages, and investor billboards like ceo.ca or stockhouse.com. And don't forget, they're not just communicating back to us, they're communicating to everyone else as well. So who's monitoring those feedback channels? What do they say when answering questions on your company's behalf? The replies have to be consistent, they have to be timely, you can't let them hang for too long, and the messaging has to be very clear and align with what the company's key messages and values are. So we do that. We receive and respond to feedback on social media, and we monitor like info at email addresses, answer questions, we provide information in a very easy to understand format, and we continue to be open and available for further questions. Next slide. So I invite you to put us to work for you. I've got more than 2 decades experience in the fields of marketing, communications, PR, and IR across a lot of fields, but I fell in love with mining and stayed there. I'm bilingual, based in Montreal, Canada, like most of my team. I'm active in women in mining, and I just was recently elected to the Quebec Mineral Exploration Association's board. So very excited about maybe changing some perceptions here in Quebec through that vehicle. Next slide. This is just some pictures of some of our current and recent clients that we're working with or have worked with in the recent past. And I think the next one's the last slide, second last slide. So yeah, let's start a conversation. Happy to schedule a meeting to discuss your needs and how we can help. And why are we called Refined Substance? We put our work to refining the substance of what you have to share with your audiences, investors, employees, communities, public at large, and get that word out there. Thank you. There's my contact information. You can also reach out to us on LinkedIn and on X. Happy to take any questions.